It really touched me just on how it started with your relationship with mom and dad, my great grandmother. So just start from there. I just feel like maybe if we just start from how that kind of created that hustle, like starting with mom and dad's life.
I think that's, you know what, you made a good point about not knowing things, because I think as a mother, as a parent, we try to maybe shelter our children from a lot of things. So I'll probably do that, and probably that's the case. But right now, we're gonna pretend you don't know me. Yeah, you're gonna ask me those questions that you want, to ask. Let's get a little deeper about it. But starting with my grandmother, your great grandmother, is a great spot because she was such an important part of my life. She still is, even though she's been gone now for a while. It's just, I got to have my grandmother until she was 99 years old. So for almost for 50 years of my life, I got to have my grandmother. So that was very powerful. And throughout growing up, she was very influential. So in the book, when I talk about the Haitian women know how to hustle, that's really coming from what my grandmother taught me. And this is from a woman who came to the United States. She was in her 50s. She did not speak a word of English. And she had 7 children that she had in Haiti. And so she did some serious hustling to get a lot of those children into the country. Something we don't talk about their little family secrets about how she managed to get a couple of her children into the country, but she did it. So again, that is an example of hustle, because she wanted a better life for her children. And so she found a way to make it happen. So my grandmother comes to this country, and she had been a seamstress almost all her life. She sewed prison uniforms for the jails. And so she was taking care of her family with that income. And then here she comes to the United States and doesn't speak English, doesn't have any source of income whatsoever, but she had hustle. She had hustle. And so she just looked around to try and find ways to create a business for herself. So with my experience with her was, I was 7, 8 years old, and we would go to in Philly, we would go to the markets in Philadelphia, and she would just do her shopping or whatever. And every time she saw an obese woman, I mean, we talking morbidly obese women, right? She would just tell me, go over there and ask her, who makes her clothes, because my grandmother did not speak English. And I was like, okay. So I would just go to the person, and I would just go, excuse me, my grandmother wants to know who makes your dress, who makes your clothes. And then I would get these stories. I would hear these things as a 7, 8 years old. The woman saying, oh, I have the hardest time finding clothes. I don't really have someone, or is it so hard and whatever. And so I would go and tell my grandmother what the woman said. And my grandmother would say, go back to her and tell her, I will make your dresses for you. I will make beautiful dresses for you. I will make you beautiful. I'm like, and so then these women all of a sudden formed this attachment to my grandmother that lasted for decades. I remember one woman that I think my grandmother had her as a customer for 28 years. It was just ridiculous that I went back looking, going, she's been around that long. But it was just that attachment that my grandmother made, because she was able to provide a service, a desired service to these women. And she charged very reasonable prices for them, and for the products. And it just became a relationship. So I learned very early, the importance of developing a relationship. I wasn't thinking about business per se. I was just thinking about, you're nice to people and they treat you well, and that's a good thing. So that was my grandmother, seeing her always finding a way to get her hustle on, to take care of the family, to do whatever was needed, was very powerful for me. I got to see that. And so I, in turn, at a young age, 9 years old, I decided I'm gonna start my own business. And I go and I start knocking on the doors. Me and my girlfriend, Diane, would go knocking on our apartment doors and try to take trash out for people and make money from it, And how did I do that? I just learned, you need to make some money. You better go find a way to make some money and go do it. And that was a very powerful lesson that my grandmother taught me.